Here in studio this morning, Simon and I are joined by former Leicester, former Villa, former Celtic manager Martin O'Neill, all the way through to 12. And from 12 to 1, we shall talk boxing with Spencer Oliver and the chief executive boxer, the promoter Ben Shalom. Martin, you were on duty last night, and I was watching you with Martin Keown, of course, Nottingham Forest against Arsenal. After being in pole position for so long now for Forest, would anything less than Champions League fall flat for Nottingham Forest now?
No, well, I don't necessarily think that, but there is, like anything else, expectation. There's an expectation at the start of the season for what you might think would be half decent. That expectation would have been halfway up the league, I think. Then, as the season progresses and the mood is changing around the football club, suddenly you find yourself in the top four. Then I think there would be an air of disappointment if they didn't make it, but if they were in European football, it's still a terrific achievement first time round, certainly in Nuno's first complete season. He took over last year, I think around about Boxing Day itself, but I believe that the pre-season training was very strong, was very difficult. A lot of hard work was put into, and a little bit of the usual word bonding, as they talk about, and bonding, bonding with players, do your brain in, wouldn't it? But overall, but apparently, and it's worked out terrifically well. Yeah. So there is actually a feeling of expectation now around the City ground at this minute, and it has some founding as well too.
You're pleased about that?
Am I? Actually, I am pleased.
You must be.
I am pleased for the team, and I'm actually pleased for the fans, if that's the case. Yeah. Am I necessarily pleased for the owner? Not necessarily.
Yeah, you're not having him, are you?
No. Let me put it this way. I said this last night. I'm not on his Christmas list, and he's not in my Easter bunny. But overall, what he has done in recent times has been terrific. Yeah. Really terrific. Yeah. Right. Spent a lot of money on players. I wish I could have got it. But he spent a lot of money on players and dispelled them pretty quickly. They disappeared. But suddenly he's got a group of players, and well done him. This was the ambition he set out for in the very first place. Yeah. Frustratingly not getting into the Premier League for a while. Yeah. But then when he's made it, this is it. And so I have to give him credit for that.
I think so. I mean, I've often said it, Simon. I will never forget the experience of interviewing him after they went up. Yeah. And they won the championship playoff final at Wembley. And Evangelos Marinakis, we're talking about, the shipping magnate who owns Forest, he owns Olympiacos as well. Yeah. And he literally was bouncing off walls trying to tell me it's trophies now. It's about trophies, about winning. I
mean, it's an interesting phenomenon because they've had some adversity. They had the unfairness, I think, of the regulations allowing them to carry losses from the Championship, which are far lesser than the ones in the Premier League, and being disadvantaged by that, which is almost perplexing. So there's a penalty for going into the Premier League because ultimately you're allowed to lose less in your last cycle, so that you carry that into the Premier League, which is absurd, which disadvantages the teams coming up who want to have a go. I thought some of the signings they made initially, I thought the Lingard signing was a terrible signing, was always going to be a terrible signing, and was the wrong way to go. The background noise that was being out of the club about who was buying the players, how the players were being bought, and how poor Steve Cooper was this. Then he redirected, and everyone thought he was going to fire Cooper, and he didn't. Look, what he is and what he isn't is a different matter. Forest have caught a wave right now. They're a very effective side in what they do. They're very clinical. They create a small amount of chances, but if you look at the effectivity when they take them, Chris Wood is having a season that he's never had before in his life. True. And they're a unit. Yeah. Now, do I think that they're going to get overtaken possibly by Man City and Chelsea? Possibly, because City have more know-how. They probably have better players. The stability issue about how they play, I understand that, but they're breathing down their neck now. Chelsea have a bigger squad. We'll see. If I were Forest and there's 5 spots available in the Champions League now, and I didn't get one, I'd be very disappointed because I'm in a situation. If it were 4, I'd say okay, but the fact that we've got a wider berth means that there's an opportunity for them. Yeah. And so I think what Nuno Espirito Santos has done is remarkable. I didn't see him coming back from Saudi. He left Wolves in a certain way. He goes to Spurs, and it doesn't work in the slightest.
He didn't get the time. Yeah.
He didn't, but he was probably the wrong fit as well.
Well, that's as maybe. I don't know. I don't know what a fit is for Tottenham Hotspur, but what I'm saying is that you didn't really get the time if you consider that.
Granted.
Yeah.
I mean, you will of course bang that drum because it's about the same sort of games as you had at Forest.
No, he had less games than me. I think he had 15 or 16. I had 19. So yeah. So I beat him by 4. I think it was. And he didn't get the time. What he's done. There is a very, very, very good spirit with the players. No, there's no question about it, and that does come down from him. Whatever you say about
absolutely
it.
right.
Martin, do you think if Nuno and Forest can get into the Champions League, he'll be lauded and applauded as much as Unai Emery was when he did the same thing with Villa?
Well, why not? Why not? But perhaps Aston Villa. It sounds ridiculous of me to say this, having won the European Cup with Nottingham Forest, but you would say that Aston Villa is actually a bigger football club, and so what Emery, I've got the utmost respect for, and has done brilliantly there. But that getting Nottingham Forest into the Champions League would be an enormous achievement. Really, really terrific, considering the length of time he's been at the football club.
And Martin O'Neill, there is Terry, a huge Nottingham Forest fan. How can I not mention Martin O'Neill when I think of Nottingham Forest and what happened in those golden years, European Cup years? I mean, when you think of it, Martin, does that seem a long time ago now?
Yes, it does.
Or is it still a very vivid memory lifting that European Cup?
Yeah, some of the matches are. Just wanted to tell Simon that lifting that European Cup is very heavy. It's the heaviest cup going. I remember Ruud Gullit saying once. I met up with Ruud Gullit, and he was round a dinner table and he was holding court. And he was actually very funny. And
he is, isn't he? By the way,
he was very funny. And he said, do you know why? Somebody asked him a question. Why do you have a bit of a slumped shoulders? And he said, it's lifting that European Cup is so heavy. He said, it's made me slump down.
See, I think one of Marcus' most remarkable achievements was the ability to find different expressions to describe Celtic's performance last week against Bayern Munich, given the fact he was asked by Gabby about 700 times to describe how well Celtic had played. Myself and Jim were last week going, it's brilliant how Martin managed to keep the same level of enthusiasm being asked the same question for about an hour and a half after the game.
Well, I'm afraid I do not have the vocabulary anymore. I did have when I was 18 or 19, but then when you become a professional player, you don't read a book after that. You find yourself. It's serious. It's very, very true. You
don't need to do anything academic after that.
It is amazing, really, honestly. And I find myself now. I used to be a really, really good speller when I was 9, 10, 11, 12. And now I find myself going to the dictionary, having a little look to him just to make sure the spelling is right, like twit. And things like syrup. Anyway, listen.
Yeah. So, do you find when the odd bit of criticism comes your way, do you still like? Oh, really? I mean, I'm looking at one, Martin. I may as well read it. Andy in Nottingham has dared me to read it. Jim, can you ask Martin why he's seemingly so bitter every time he talks about Nottingham Forest these days, the Nottingham Forest of today under Marinakis? I know that Martin lost his job, but is he finding it tough to move on from that? Having said that, Martin, in my eyes, is an absolute legend. But is there something there about that experience with Marinakis that you still find difficult to go over with?
I seriously now, and not joking, I have really got over it now, but it does take some time, I must admit. It's a losing of your job after 19 games when you really haven't had a chance to sign players and get your teeth into the job. That's really, honestly, it's gone. It's beside the point. It happens. You get over it, as my wife has said to me on a number of times. Get over it, man. And
I mean, Andy goes on to say that it pains me to say it, but Martin would probably agree. He didn't have players playing the best football we've ever seen at the City Ground during his time. Is that fair?
That is absolute bunkum. Absolute and utter bunkum. It is. He mustn't have been at the games. But play the best football. Play the best football. We'd only got 2 players who were worthwhile. Seriously, listen, honestly.
But you had players like Lewis Grabban, didn't you?
I had Lewis Grabban. That if I must admit, I hope Lewis is listening to this here. But if I could have transferred him after the second day of meeting him, I would have done so.
I had Lewis in my academy. I know his dad very well.
Did you? Is that right? Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Okay, Andy, thanks for your message.
Had no interest other than in Lewis Grabban.
Yeah. Having said that, the messages keep on coming in. Ash is a Newcastle fan. Martin O'Neill, he's right up there. Love him when he's on your show. Talks so much common sense.
Jim, just
on all
to
levels
say
of
that,
football.
seriously, and it is honestly, it is over. Sometimes a bit of a joke now, but like anything else, you get bitter for a while. I remember when I was at Leicester City, I couldn't win a game to save my life early on. Letters coming in, right, left, and centre. I held on to the letters, and then when we got promotion, I sent my replies back, and then phoned a couple of people up who stupidly had left their telephone number on the letter. So I got my own back in that sense.
Right.
Excellent.
But I think a brilliant thing about Martin is you ask him a question, you get an honest answer. You know, and I fully understand the fact that he would do what I would do with Palace. I have no love lost for Parish whatsoever.
Yeah.
Right?
Steve Parish at Crystal Palace.
I won't wish Parish any luck. I'll wish Palace fans luck, and I'll wish the team luck. So you ask him a question. He doesn't wish Marinakis any luck because he's not got great experience of Marinakis, but he'll wish the team and the fans luck. And I think that's as good as it gets. And I think that's not unreasonable.
You've
it's not
told me
about get over
privately
it.
you think that Parish has done a very good job.
I think he's done a brilliant job. He thinks Marinakis has done a brilliant job.
But you can't say it publicly.
But of course
You
I
don't-
can.
but you don't like saying it on air.
I just said it. But I don't like the fella, and he probably doesn't like Marinakis. And he gives you an honest answer. And I don't think that's about being bitter. I think it's about being bloody honest. And a bit more of it, thanks very much, in this world.
Well, thanks, Ray. That's absolutely true. I mean, seriously, you step out of here. This is seriously without being a real sycophant. There's a terrific program. It's a pleasure to be on it. But you step out now, Jim, find out that your boss is waiting outside. Excuse me, sorry, Jim, you've been really, really good for quite a number of years, but here's your cards, and you're gone. You know, and then you just take
You've heard the
yourself.
rumours.
Yeah.
I've been campaigning for that, by the way.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I don't think you'd feel great about it, I must admit.
Of course. And it is all very public in the world of football.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.